is on the refusal of contractors, including and especially Julius Berger Nigerian PLC, to honor a lawful invitation by the National Assembly on the deplorable state of the critical national infrastructure projects. Mr. President, this motion is sponsored by me and co-sponsored by Senator Asuko Ekpeyong and Senator Barenada Mpigi. And I proceed, Mr. President. The Senate notes that on the 20th of November 2024, the Senate mandated the Committee on Works to conduct investigation into the state of road infrastructure across the country. The Senate recalled that in furtherance of the investigative hearings, Julius Berger Nigerian PLC has neglected and refused to honor invitations to provide details of their role in the Odukwane-Itu Highway project, despite receiving substantial public funds amounting to over 18 billion naira. The Senate further recalls that the alarming discrepancies in performance among contractors on these projects, with specific reference to Julius Berger for failing to meet delivery timelines. The Senate recognizes the constitutional powers of the National Assembly under Section 88 and 89 of the 1999 Constitution as amended to conduct investigations and summon any person or organizations responsible for administering public funds. The Senate further recognizes the powers set out in Section 6(1) of the Legislative House Powers and Privileges Act, which empowers the Senate to issue warrants of arrest for persons in contempt of its proceedings. The Senate further observes that the termination of Julius Berger's contract for the Odukwane-Itu Highway project due to demobilization and refusing to accept contract review terms despite the initial contract value of 54 billion naira and a subsequent request for an upward review from 54 billion naira to 195 billion naira. The Senate further observes the critical need for transparency and accountability in the disbursement and administration of public funds appropriated for these projects. Mr. President, the Senate resolves to condemn the refusal of Julius Berger Nigerian PLC and other entities to honor the lawful invitations of the Senate, which constitutes contempt of the National Assembly and undermines the National Assembly's constitutional authority. Invoke the constitutional powers of the National Assembly as provided in Section 89(1)(c) and (d) of the 1999 Constitution to issue a warrant of arrest to compel the attendance of the Managing Director of Julius Berger Nigerian PLC at the rescheduled investigative hearing. Direct the Clerk of the Senate to publish this resolution in the Journal of the National Assembly and the Gazette of the Federal Government of Nigeria in compliance with Section 88 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Direct the Committee on Works to continue its investigation into the Odukwane-Itu Highway, the East-West Road, and other national projects with a mandate to present a detailed report on the contractor disbursement and project status at the appropriate time. Urge the Federal Ministry of Work to collaborate with the Senate in addressing inefficiencies and consider awarding contracts of capable entities for non-performing sections of critical infrastructure projects in the country. Urge the Senate leadership to engage with the executive to reinforce and necessitate of contractor entity accountability in achieving infrastructure goals under the renewed hope agenda of the Federal Republic, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I so move, Mr. President.
Madam Leader, you can second the motion and then. The main motion moved on in this hollow chamber
by the Minority Whip. Mr. President, let me say ab initio that contractors that have been given jobs and have been mobilized and neglect to do so are showing crass disrespect for our nation. Mr. President, I want to particularly recall my trip on the Calabar-Odukpani-Itu Road recently. It will interest you to note, Mr. President, that on that fateful day, I missed my flight of 10 o'clock in the morning, having left Calabar to go to Uyo by 5 a.m. Means for about 5 hours I was on that road. And on that fateful day too, Mr. President, a tanker fell on the road on that very deplorable part, and indigents were scooping the product from the tanker, which has led in the recent past to the death of several Nigerians in many parts of Nigeria. Mr. President, I think there is an imperative need at this point that we take this motion very seriously and urge the relevant agencies of government and the relevant committees of the Senate to collaborate as a matter of national importance to ensure the resolution of this impasse on the part of the contractors and the awarding agencies. Mr. President, we're talking about the Renewed Hope agenda. We're talking about the desire by government to do things for this country. Yet, a few individuals masquerading as contractors, collecting public funds, and not doing the job, are attempting to sabotage the process. I think we must take this matter very seriously. And it is not just Julius Berger. Yes, Julius Berger can be a point of contact for all these other contractors that we are talking about here. But Mr. President, I can tell you that even in Benue State, an 8-kilometer road that was flagged up in 2018 has remained as it were until this moment that I'm talking to you. The abandoned project of Ogobia-Onyangede-Ankpa Road has been abandoned for years. But on a very interesting note, I am told that after the collation of abandoned projects, which included that road, that the contractor has mobilized to site. I just hope that he doesn't abandon it again. Mr. President, this is what is replied in all parts of Nigeria. And so I want to honestly appreciate the person who has moved this motion and to urge my colleagues not only to support it, but to see it as a clarion call to call these people to order in order to salvage this country. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Asuku, you are a co-sponsor.
November this year, I read a motion on the floor of this hallowed chamber calling on the review and the investigation to the slow pace of work on the Odukpani-Itu Federal Highway. Flowing from that directly, the resolutions passed by this Senate was that the Senate Committee on Works invites the three contractors, Messrs. Sematech, Messrs. Julius Berger, and Messrs. CCECC, Nigeria Limited, to a hearing. That hearing held the following week and was presided by the #1 presiding officer of the National Assembly himself, the Senate President. In that engagement and at that hearing, out of the three contractors, only one contractor was present, Messrs. Sematech, Nigeria Limited. The presiding officer, the President of this Senate, directed at that meeting that another hearing be held and that the other two contractors must be present, including the Minister for Works. Senior members of the Committee of Works were at that meeting. Members such as Senator Ningi, Senator Alero, all present. The next invitations were duly sent, and at the second meeting, Messrs. CCECC were there, Messrs. Sematech was there, the minister himself was there, but Julius Berger were once again absent. At that second hearing, we gave another break and did a third invitation, asking for Julius Berger to make themselves available. Distinguished colleagues, it is very sad to note and to state that Julius Berger has refused to attend these investigative hearings. Julius Berger
They bidded for a job, they were awarded a job, they were paid taxpayers' money, they showed up on site briefly, and they left the site. For whatever reason they may have done that, they have to come and tell the Nigerian people. Julius Berger, even though they may have their origins outside this country, can never try what they are doing in Nigeria, in Germany or wherever in Europe they originate from. It behoves on this Senate that we establish and utilize the powers and the constitutional powers that are given to us to invite the gentleman, the managing director of Julius Berger, to appear before us so that we can look into this matter and give it the necessary conclusion. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you, distinguished colleagues.
Senator Oji Kalu. And Julius Berger refused to come. They have been doing it in the 9th Senate. Most people summon Julius Berger, they refuse to come. And I urge this Senate to punish them. They cannot be doing this. If they're a construction company, they must listen to the parliament. It's not only Julius Berger. Even some of our ministers are not answerable to the committees. And they will insult our chairman. And they will insult people working in the Senate. You will invite a minister of Federal Republic of Nigeria. Some of them will not listen to the chairman of your committee, Mr. President. And enough is enough. We should query these ministers and ask Mr. President to drop them. How can a chairman of a committee be looking for a minister for 2, 3 days, 4 days, they will not answer phone? So they are doing the same thing Julius Berger is doing. We are protected under section 28 to 88 and 89 of the Constitution as amended, 1999 Constitution. We cannot be taking this. This is a parliament. Unless they want us to be a study area, we become a study area. We are lawmakers, and they should respect this place. It's not only Julius Berger, it's also your ministers and DGs, many chairmen of parastatal, including some of the federal government parastatal. The chairman has been telling me, I will go for a committee meeting, I expect to see a minister, the minister will not come. And I'm not the chairman, I can't do anything. It's a hard time that any minister, the parliament must put a performance record for all the ministers. And we must report to the commander-in-chief. Because we are not here for jokes, Mr. President. Please, I want to thank my colleague Ostangu for bringing this motion, because it is annoying that you will send us to do something and we'll be looking for a minister. I called one minister throughout yesterday because I had a meeting and message from my committee. That minister has not answered till now. Just now I'm talking, I saw his missed call for 24 hours. Is that right? That is not good, Mr. President. We have to use our powers. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity to voice how I feel this morning. I feel like fighting, but I can't fight. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Oji Uzokalo, for your brilliant. It's a judiciary that sentences anyone that commits anything against the law. So we don't punish. You have to understand that. But we do lawmaking, oversight, and so investigation, and so on and so forth. Senator Mohamed Ademale, you have the floor.
They failed to come for the first time, and the minister was there. We decided that we should give them a second chance. A letter was written to them by the clerk of the committee. Again, they failed to come. But I thought, Mr. President, the committee has all the powers to compel Julius Berger to appear before the committee. We don't have to bring this issue to this hallowed chamber. Yeah, no. Let me learn, please. Then you can talk. Under the 1999 Constitution, the committee has the power to compel any agency of government, any minister, to appear before it. And if he fails to appear before it, we can invoke that particular section of the Constitution and even cause him to be arrested and to be brought to either the committee or to the chamber. So we have not exhausted that at the committee level. So I believe we should first and foremost deal with the matter at the committee level. Compel Julius Berger to appear before the committee and hear why they could not complete the road after collecting colossal amount of money. As far back as 2020, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I was on this particular road on oversight, and as at that time, all the contractors working on that particular road were on site except Julius Berger. When we came back to Abuja, we called them, and they said they have submitted request for variation because of escalation of prices. The ministry is yet to give them a go-ahead. And this has been the matter since then. Mr. President, I'm not in support of what Julius Berger is doing. What they are doing is certainly condemnable, but bringing them to this chamber or discussing them about discussing the issue in this chamber will amount to elevating them. We should deal with it at the committee level. I also submit, Mr. President.
Which all of us know here, every person that has been within the... well, I'll give you the chance to speak. I'll give you. Normally, if a committee summons any person or entity to come for a committee hearing, and that entity does not send a representative or do not appear in any way, the normal thing is to report to the presiding officer, and then warrant will be issued. Well, before that, even there will be some communication. Thereafter, there will be issue of warrant to compel that person to come. If that is the case, then of course this motion is not necessary because it's a matter of procedure, and we know it. Anybody within the legislature for a long time is experienced in this in the legislative work will understand that there is no need for motion. Yes, no, yes, no, but he raised a important issue. You talk, but it's good when somebody is raised an issue which we know we need to voice it out. Senator Ningi.
Mr. President, in the powers and privileges of National Assembly, does a committee chairman is saddled with the capacity to compel. It is the presiding officer that confers. And therefore, when a matter of this nature is brought before a house, the committee now seeks the mandate of the entire Senate. The mandate of the entire Senate is quite different from the mandate of a committee superintended by a chairman. So I don't want us to dilute this matter. This matter, Mr. President, should not be diluted. It is a serious problem. It is not just Julius Berger, like I said. Most of the committees have been having a running battle with agencies, MDAs, because they don't think this National Assembly is so serious. I don't know how we arrived at this particular situation. I was a committee member. I was at the hearing, and I raised this particular matter, whereby a committee, a competent committee, will send an invitation. Sometimes even permanent secretaries will not come. Sometimes the ministers will not come. Sometimes they send far inferior officers, and they come, and our hands are so tight. Mr. President, this is an independent legislature. This is not a subsection of the presidency. The National Assembly is an independent body. Look at section 4 of powers and privileges of the National Assembly. And they can make laws
on anything, over anything, at every given time. And therefore, I summon anybody, whether you are in government, whether you are not in government, whether you are a businessman, and here we are saddled with a very unfortunate malady. Ask any committee chairman whether he's not having issues with attendance of head of NDS or ministries. But somehow, because of the Nigerian factor, you try to compel, you try to use their power. People who come from all sorts of directions. Please is a member of our party. Please is a Yoruba man. Please is from Bauchi State. And these are happening, these are recurring dismal in our functions. And therefore, I have not seen for a very long time when Julius Berger appeared before the Senate. I have not seen for a very long time. And when Senator Ali, with all sense of responsibility, said the committee should, and I want Ali to tell us how will the committee do? What can the committee do? The only way the committee can do, the only thing, is to reach out to a presiding officer, and compel. But here, the committee is not actually asking the buy-in of a presiding officer. Mr. President, the committee is not asking for a buy-in of a presiding officer. The committee is asking for a buy-in of the Senate. The Senate, Mr. President, is bigger than a presiding officer. Once senators are in concurrence as to what we do, as long as we do not violate these rules, as long as the rule is complementary to the Constitution, the presiding officer cannot say no. The presiding officer, of course, is just but one of us. And therefore, this particular motion is not calling for a buy-in of a presiding officer. It's calling for a buy-in of the Senate in its entirety. And therefore, the question is whether or not the Senate agrees with the resolution and the fact of the matter. Mr. President, lastly, if we continue to dilute matters of this nature like this in a manner that we are trying to do, then you go out there, you are taken for a ride, nobody respects you, and therefore we have to look inwards. Why are we getting some of this expectation? Why are we not getting the required attention from MDS? Is it about the institution? Is it about individuals? Is it about our processes? Then we need to sit down as a House, as a Senate, to reflect going for what we need to do. But so far, the impression out there is that anybody can refuse to come and nothing happens. And that is a fact of the matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anger at the clearly uncooperative attitude of a contractor. What I'm saying should not be construed to mean a support of that. I want to align myself respectfully, even though I agree with the sentiments and emotions and some of the reasons given. I want to respectfully align myself with the position earlier canvassed by Senator Alero in terms of procedures. Let me begin by saying that with the concerns we are now hearing about even officials of the executive arm not honoring invitations and summons, there are so many reasons we can't disclose fully here about what has to be done differently by members, by committees, and also the leadership. I believe that
those matters, as we say in my place, and the German will say, the stomach of a crocodile should not be opened in the marketplace. Because you don't know if you will see, you can't be too sure what you will find inside. So I will respectfully suggest that when we have an executive session properly convened at the right time, we can examine all those issues that have to do with conduct, that have to do with standards, and so on, by members, by committees, by chairmen, and by the leadership. Now, coming to this, I am a believer of the fact that this plenary, the plenary of the Senate, is a sacred place. And that's why I've never been in support. It's only very rare cases that I will support a situation where even people come here on plenary to make statements. This plenary, anytime we are meeting in plenary and the mess is lying there bearing the insignia of the country, solemn, it means that this is the meeting of Nigeria. This is the meeting, anytime we are meeting in plenary, is a meeting of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by its elected senators. So that is why I've always not been in support. That is why I agree with the views by Senator Alero that in the case of disobedience or recalcitrance by people invited, that the committees already have by the rules, by our rules, and by also the Constitution, the powers have been vested in the committees to compel attendance. To compel attendance. The procedure is there, and they will make an application to the presiding officer. We will now sign the necessary proceedings. So I agree that even discussing a corporate entity, no matter how big, no matter how, we're elevating them. That's why I say we should protect the sanctity of the plenary. So to that extent, I spoke in support of this road. I sat in those proceedings. I saw the minister. I attended to give support to it. But I think that we should not elevate a company to the level where senators of the Federal Republic will begin to talk about. Our committees have the powers to deal with it. If we need to issue a warrant, if the committee needs to issue, compare the attendance with a warrant, the powers are already there. They will make a necessary application to the presiding officer, even today. But I caution that we should not, even in that, we should not take decisions out of emotions, out of anger. There should be effort made to put across so that this Senate, like equity, and equity like a court, they should not act in vain. We should not act in vain. Where a company, no matter how big, will now come and begin to, no. I think that's why I support Senator Alero's position. I agree with my good friend. It's one of the first times we will be disagreeing, but we are united. All of us are united about how to get people to respect the authority of this Senate or of any committee. If you disrespect a committee, you are disrespecting the Senate. You are disrespecting the National Assembly and the Constitution of the country, which we shouldn't allow. But there are ways.
Thank you very much. You've made a point.
To go about it so that we don't accelerate or promote them too much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Dixon, for explaining everything, and I thank you for his explanation. I want to refer the Senate to Section 89 of our Constitution, which reads as follows: for the purpose of any investigation under Section 88 of this Constitution, and subject to the provisions thereof, the Senate or the House of Representatives or a committee a committee appointed in accordance with Section 62 of this Constitution shall have the power. Now I go to where this matter is really taken care of. To summon any person in Nigeria to give evidence at any place or to produce any document or other thing in his possession or under his control, subject to all just exceptions. And D, to issue a warrant to compel. To issue a warrant. Even a committee has the power to issue a warrant. Even the committee. To issue a warrant to compel the attendance of any person who, after having been summoned to attend, fails, refuses, or neglects to do so, and does not excuse such failure, refusal, or neglect to the satisfaction of the House, or the committees in question. Your committee in question, and to order him to pay all costs which may have been occasioned in compelling his attendance or by reason of his failure, refusal, or neglect to obey the summons, and also to impose such fine as may be prescribed for any failure, refusal, or neglect, and any fine so imposed shall be recoverable in the same manner as the fine imposed by a court of law. So this matter is very simple. Very simple. Excuse me, please. We are talking about the Constitution. This is ground norm. So the issue is this. Senator Dixon has explained all these things. I understand the worry expressed by my colleague, even in the House of Reps, when we were the first in the first report to issue a warrant to compel someone. I'm sure he can remember. We were the first to compel someone to. We did that. At that time, I think the Constitution was not amended. I think the committee did not have the power, or we didn't see that power given to the committee. Now you don't even need to come to the presiding officer because the committee is empowered to do so. So this matter will have been dealt with by the committee. And as said by, you have said it all, Senator Dixon, this place is revered. Issues like this should be taken care of in the committee. This is a fact. No, we need to say it. We will say, but I'm the presiding officer, and when there's a look, this is the ground norm. So for that reason, Senator Dixon has captured the matter in the manner that it should be captured. Any other thing is just to add to our debate. I'm the chief interpreter of our constitution here, or the rules. So, and I'm so interpreted. So, but I will give you a chance to say what you want to say.
Constitutional.
Yes, point of order.
Constitutional order. Section 89(2). A summon.
No, but it's good.
A summon or a warrant issued under this section 89(2). 89(2). A summon or warrant issued under this section may be served or executed by any member of the Nigerian Police Force or by any other person authorized in that behalf by the President of the Senate or the Speaker of the House of Representatives, as the case may be. Therefore, the cardinal issue of warrant rests with a presiding officer, President of the Senate or a Speaker. Don't allow us to please embarrass ourselves. No chairman signs a warrant. No chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Your order is sustained. Thank you,
colleagues. My name is Senator Julius Berger Thomas. I represent the good people of Delta South Neutral District and all the Deltans living the creeks of the Niger Delta. Mr. President, we'll be citing the Constitution and our rule book. I want to first of all align myself with Nengi And I want to thank the Minority Chief Whip, Asukwo, and Impigi, who has brought this motion to this House. One thing we must understand is that in both the Constitution and the Rule Book, the powers of the committee, the powers of the presiding officer are delegated from this House, from this Senate to them. And if for any reason a matter that was being dealt at committee level has been brought into this chamber, we cannot at this point say that we cannot hear it, make comments, and allow the whole House to take a decision. The decision of this House supersedes every committee and the powers of the presiding officers. And I do not want us to take this matter lightly by trying to sweep it under the carpet.
Senator Kingibe.
I just went to 89.2. First of all, you have to read 89.2 in conjunction with the first one, which says any of the either a Senate committee member, chairman, and all that can do those things assigned.
Issue warrants.
Yes, but a summons or warrant issued under the section may be served or executed by a member of the Nigerian police force, or if it's not by the Nigerian police force, then by any other person authorized by on behalf of the President of the Senate or the Speaker of the House of Representatives, as the case may be. So the only time, Senator Yingi, from my interpretation of this, that they need the Senate President or the Speaker of the House to sign that warrant is when it is being executed by a member other than a member of the Nigerian police force. But if it is by a member of the police force, then the chairman of the committee can be the one to ask for that warrant to be issued. That's my interpretation.
I just hope that new constitutional orders will not come up again. Like I was trying to say, let us not allow this matter to be swept under the carpet. Please. See, we can't see this motion was sponsored by Senator Osita Ungu and co-sponsored by the chairman of that particular committee. And please, if you are listening to what Senator Asukwo said earlier on, he said the principal officer, the presiding officer of this House had called a meeting inviting all of them to come. They did not come. They called another meeting again. They did not come. They called another meeting again. They did not come. They called a fourth meeting. They did not come. Please, if the committees are free to bring issues to this chamber, they are acting on behalf of us, the people who have been elected into this chamber. If they find it difficult to take any decision on any matter, they have every right to bring it to this place. And here we can take a decision and say this is the way to go. Nothing is out of place at this point in time. So please, that is the point I want to raise regarding whether we have a right to discuss here or not. But let me go on to the issue on ground. The issue on ground. You see, I was in the last investigative hearing in that committee. You need to hear the Minister of Works lamenting. And I want to say this. The reason for the decay in our infrastructure in this country is because of the recalcitrant attitude of our contractors. How do you move a project that was awarded for 54 billion to 195 billion, yet you are not still doing the job? They're taking us for a ride. And I think the Nigerian people need to know how our taxpayers' money is being used. I've not seen it anywhere in this world that you have awarded a contract for 54 billion, then you do a variation of more than 100% on top of it. And these delays are deliberately being made by the contractors. Please, I want to urge my colleagues, we need to look at this thing dispassionately and take a decision on all contractors, not only Julius Berger.
on all contractors, please, it is only in doing so that we can truly be helping our Nigerian people. From the roads in Delta to Edo State, to Lokoja, to Kaduna, to Kano, to everywhere in this country, it's either one contractor is holding us hostage or the other, and making it difficult for us to revoke those contracts. And they're not helping our people on the road. So please, I want us to have this discussion, and let us put it to a vote, if possible, and see that we have a way of taking this decision as a resolution of the House, rather than a resolution of the power that has been conferred. We have all the right to do that in this place. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Mr. President, I have listened very attentively to all those who have spoken, but somehow my views are totally and fundamentally different. Your Excellency, I'm happy you are now seated when I have this opportunity to speak. I associate myself 100% with some of the sentiments expressed by distinguished Senator Dixon, that these chambers is not a place you bring contractors to, because by doing that we give them an undeserved respect. But my first question, why I say I'm happy you are the one on seat, I was a governor in Edo State, the way we have a federal government at the federal level. When I issued or I approved the recommendation of a tenders board or procurement process, and a contract is awarded, and I confirm from the Ministry of Finance that money has been paid, I go around to check if the money paid, if the job being done is up to the value of the money that has been paid. And should I find that the contractor is no longer working, even when we have paid, it is not the House of Assembly that helps me to bring an irresponsible contractor to justice. The first thing that we do, following the laws of procurement, because there's always a contract. In that contract, there are usually clear provisions as to what should be done when money has been paid and the contractor abandons site, or if the contractor is at site, is working at such a low space of work that the job might not be completed within the time frame provided for in the contract agreement. But my people have a saying that when an elderly man has shared akara with a small child, he loses respect in the eyes of the child. That we are discussing a contractor here who appear to be more powerful than the Ministry of Works that awarded this contract. I think these two people who are arresting the president, they are part of those who have spoken. Asuko, we will issue warrant of arrest for lawyer, SAM.
I'm with you.
What do we do when a senator left his seat while a distinguished senator is on his feet in order to confuse and try to persuade the Senate President, and you are diverting his attention? It is my privilege to be heard clearly without disturbing the President.
Yes, you are right. And
I don't have to be a boxer to be able to keep you under control. So, sir, Mr. President, I am sure in your 8 years as governor, you have had cause to deal with contractors who collected money and thought it was a Christmas gift. Please, do I have the permission of the House? Osita, please. So, sir, my first question, who is complaining?
committee.
Is it the committee that awarded the contract? Is the minister complaining? If the minister is not complaining or is pretending to complain, should we not make exactly the same anger on the minister as well as his agent, the contractor? When a man who gives you a job can no longer call you to order, there are questions to be asked and there are hard answers that must be provided. The man who gives contract cannot be helpless unless he compromises powers. So the anger of my brother, distinguished Senator Orji, should be directed at the Federal Ministry of Works. And like somebody said, even petty contractors collect money and walk away, and there are no consequences. And I want to ask for those of us who have had the privilege to give jobs, even in our personal capacity, when you pay your contractor with evidence and you have agreement that says once you pay a job is done, if the contractor doesn't do it, why are you not invoking those sections not only to terminate but to use law enforcement? Because this is not a civil matter, it's a contractual obligation that can have a criminal implication. And then get the security information agencies to recover the portion of the money that has been paid and for which no job has been done. For the committee to not be the one chasing a contractor and the federal ministry seems to be indifferent, suggests that we are directing our anger not to the source of the problem but to the consequences arising from official neglect by those who are empowered to enforce contract agreement. I therefore submit, sir, with profound respect, that the Honorable Minister of Works is as implicated as any other person. Because in the first instance, he is the one representing the executive in awarding this contract. He has a story to tell as to why his contractor has become more powerful than him. Until we do that, I think we are being misled into chasing a contractor. Who is this contractor that is so powerful? More than the federal government, more than EFCC, more than all the agencies that are put in place to deal with people who are involved in criminal embezzlement of public funds. So I submit, sir, that everything we have said of Julius Berger, we should say even more to the Ministry of Works that awarded the contract. There is no evidence they have the power to revoke the contract, and they have the power under the law to get that part of the payment for which they have no work, to recover that money to public treasury and award the contract to another contractor under clear terms of contract execution.
Thank you.
So let us not.
Thank you.
Let us not shy away from the root cause of the problem. May we not engage anyone that is beyond our capacity to bring under control. Don't hire who you cannot fire.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, let me point of order, sir. Point of order. Let me give an opportunity to the
point of order, Mr. President.
We will be dragging ourselves backwards with points of order. This is a constitutional issue. Is your point of order going to be above the Constitution? Senate President Emeritus.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I'm Ahmed Lawan, I represent Yobe North. Mr. President, let me join my colleagues who spoke earlier to say that what we are discussing is of a fundamental consequence. But I have a different attitude to this. And here, I would like to state very clearly that committees of the Senate, whether special, ad hoc, or standing, are coordinated by the Senate leader or office of the Senate leader. Mr. President, to me, when committees have issues with either contractors or agencies they supervise and oversight, they should start with Senate Leader's Office. In a situation where we have a contractor, and here I will agree with so many of our colleagues who said we shouldn't be discussing Julius Berger here, the way we are discussing it. Because it's like the ministry has failed, Ministry of Works, and now the entire people of Nigeria are talking about Julius Berger and a contractor that has signed agreements, and those agreements are meant to be kept by both sides. Mr. President, when we have issues like this, plenary is not the best place because you won't get the best information. When we are in a closed session, you will hear a lot more than we are hearing now, because at that point it will be no whole bad. So I will advise that we have said enough. Either we go into closed session now and deal with it and conclude on how we go forward, or we may delay it, but I believe that discussing it in plenary does not help the Senate. And therefore I agree with the submission of Senator Saraki Dixon, and of course partially with the submission of my friend and brother here, the former NLC president, the senator representing Edo North, Senator Adams Oshumole. But I say partially, the Senate committees of the National Assembly can invite a contractor. Why? If the minister has failed or the ministry has failed, we approved funds and we want to see value for money. We want to see economy. We want to see prudence in the way and manner our funds that we appropriated are utilized. So in conclusion, Mr. President, I will advise that we should find a way of going into closed session and open up so that we deal with this issue. And like many of us said, it's beyond Julius Berger. And this has been a recurring decimal in most sessions of the National Assembly. Ministers, heads of agencies, contractors, sometimes, or many times, they will simply ignore. And when I served as Chairman of Public Accounts Committee, which I did in this Senate for 8 years, I knew how the Senate President then gave us the support by signing 1 or 2 warrants, and everybody started to be a better person. We invite you, you will appear. So, Mr. President, I advise, let's go into closed session, and when there is need for signing a warrant, Mr. President, don't hesitate. We have to make example of some people and some institutions. Thank you very much.